Okay, let's unpack this. We're digging into a deposition transcript today. It's from April 12, 2024.
Right, and it focuses on that shooting at Stadium Sports Club and Pizza in Rolling Meadows, Illinois, back in January 2022.
Exactly. And our mission really is just to understand what happened that night, but specifically through the eyes of Tony Palumbo. He was the general manager on duty.
Yeah, and he was speaking under oath, which is key.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting about using a deposition like this as our main source is, well, it's a direct line, isn't it? It's one person's memory, their perspective, given in a legal setting.
Right. It's his firsthand account.
And for you listening, it's kind of like being a fly on the wall. You get to see how an eyewitness describes things, the little details, especially around a critical incident like this one. There are some surprising things in here.
Definitely. So let's talk about Tony Palumbo. Who was he at this place?
Well, he was the GM at Stadium Sports Club and Pizza for 10 years, a good long while.
And it sounds like he was pretty much running the show, especially after the owner's son wasn't involved anymore.
Yeah, that's the impression. And the place itself, Stadium, it sounds like your typical neighborhood bar in Rolling Meadows. You know, regulars, a separate dining room.
Karaoke in the bar area, he mentioned.
Right. The hours varied a bit, pre and post-COVID, apparently. Kitchen closed before the bar did. The whole place actually closed down for good end of 2023. Owner retired.
Huh. And get this detail. Palumbo actually lived in an apartment right behind the bar.
Wow.
For 19 years.
19 years, that's something. Talk about being close to work.
Seriously, you're really invested then, aren't you?
Absolutely. That kind of tenure, living right there, it suggests he knew that place inside and out. The people, the vibe, the usual rhythm.
Yeah.
Which, probably really influenced how he saw things that night and how he reacted when stuff started to, well, go sideways.
Makes sense. It raises questions about how that deep familiarity impacts judgment in a crisis. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's set the scene. January 24, 2022. Monday night. Palumbo's working.
Mm-hmm. And the only bartender on shift is Anthony Guerrero. Started around, 4 or 5 p.m.?
Yeah, that's what Palumbo said. And Palumbo himself, he's sitting in a booth, says he had a clear view of the bar area.
Good vantage point.
He figured maybe 10 people were at the bar. Not super busy.
Sounds about right for a Monday.
And he remembered some regulars.
Yeah.
Gio Resendez, Carmen Chico, Pat Gorman.
Familiar faces.
And probably Ronald Craig, who he said was in there all the time. Sean Kelly was there too.
Okay, so a mix of very familiar people.
And music was playing. Maybe from the jukebox, he thought. It had some automatic setting, apparently.
Right, so just background noise. A standard kind of quiet night, it seemed.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah, that's where it turns.
So Palumbo says he notices Sean Kelly walking with a pitcher, but it's the way he's walking fast, aggressive.
Okay.
And that immediately sets off alarm bells for Palumbo. Like, his gut feeling was something's got to go down.
Wow, just from the walk?
Yeah. He put it down to his instincts, his experience managing the place.
Yeah.
That was the trigger for him.
Interesting. So not necessarily something Kelly said, but just his movement.
Right. And he didn't actually see Kelly take the pitcher. His first thought was, oh, Anthony, the bartender, must have given it to him.
The logical assumption, maybe.
But then later, watching the security footage, he saw Kelly actually took it himself.
Okay, that's a bit unusual for a customer, maybe.
Seems like it. And then Palumbo sees Kelly walk up to this other guy, Daniel Gerger, and just pour water on him from the pitcher.
Whoa. Okay, so that's the catalyst right there.
Mm-hmm.
What strikes me is Palumbo trusting that instinct, seeing that walk and immediately thinking, trouble. It's like that informal risk assessment people do.
Yeah, based on years of watching people in that setting.
And it makes you wonder, how much managers rely on that gut feeling versus formal procedures.
Good point. And Palumbo reacted fast. He said he stood up immediately, moved right between Kelly and Gerger.
Getting in the middle?
Yeah. And crucially, he says, at that moment, he had no idea Gerger had a gun.
Okay, that's important context. He's just trying to break up a potential fight.
Exactly. But almost right after he gets between them, a shot goes off.
Oh, man.
His focus instantly shifts. He needs to secure Gerger, secure the gun. He's worried about more shots.
Cure damage control.
He even tried to get the gun underneath Gerger while getting on top of him to restrain him.
Wow. Intense.
And he remembers telling Gerger, you're going down for attempted murder. Something like that.
Trying to assert control, maybe shock him.
Maybe. And interestingly, he didn't ask for help right away. He felt he had it under control initially.
That instinct to jump in, especially without knowing about the weapon, it says a lot about his feeling of responsibility, doesn't it?
It really does.
And thinking about legal consequences even in that moment, attempted murder, it makes you wonder about their protocols. Were they supposed to intervene physically or just call 911?
That's a good question. It doesn't sound like there was a clear protocol he mentioned, beyond his own judgment. But things got messy fast.
Oh, I bet.
Palumbo says Carmen, the other regular, actually got on top of him while he was holding Gerger down.
On top of Palumbo, so like adding to the pile.
Sounds like it. Maybe trying to help, but yeah. And Palumbo's yelling at Anthony, the bartender, over and over, "Call the police! Call the police!" Said you can see it on the video.
Okay, so he did try to get authorities involved then.
Yeah, once he realized he maybe didn't have it fully controlled, then Gio Resendez gets involved too. And Gio eventually gets the gun away from Gerger.
Okay, someone secured the weapon.
Yes, but Palumbo actually felt Gio's actions were risky, that Gio put himself and others in more danger doing that.
Interesting perspective. Maybe worried about it going off again during the struggle for the gun.
Could be. And then Anthony, the bartender, Palumbo said he punched Gerger several times. Palumbo thought he looked panicked.
Yeah, that sounds like pure chaos. Everyone reacting differently, maybe not always helpfully.
Totally uncontrolled. Frightening couple of moments, it sounds like.
Definitely underscores how unpredictable it gets. Palumbo thinking Gio made it more dangerous.
Yeah.
That's telling. Even if Gio meant well.
Right. Untrained people jumping in can make things worse.
Makes you think about training again, beyond just serving drinks, you know? What conflict training do bar staff get, really?
Good question. So in the immediate aftermath, Palumbo said he didn't really remember much of what Gerger was saying during all this.
Understandable. Adrenaline, chaos.
Yeah. And he didn't know who called the ambulance for Sean Kelly, the one who got shot.
Also not surprising. Things were probably frantic.
And obviously, Palumbo got questioned by the police afterwards.
Of course. Key witness.
So let's switch gears slightly. Look at Palumbo's background, his management style.
Okay.
He had restaurant management experience, but not specifically bar management, though there's overlap, obviously.
Sure. Customer service, handling situations.
He did have Bassett training, that alcohol server training.
Bassett. Covers intoxication, fake IDs, handling stuff.
But he mentioned it was expired at the time of the deposition. Still, he knew the basics. And kind of funny, he mentioned the movie Roadhouse.
Roadhouse! Seriously?
Yeah. He said it was surprisingly relevant. Remember the 3 rules. Be nice until it's time not to be nice.
Huh. Okay. An informal training source, I guess.
Right. And he considered Sean Kelly a friend. Said he didn't think Kelly seemed overly drunk that night. Felt he was okay to drive, didn't cut him off.
That's a significant point in his testimony, his assessment of Kelly's sobriety.
Definitely. Palumbo also has a FOID card, the Illinois Firearm ID card, but doesn't own a gun himself.
Okay.
And he personally believes guns shouldn't be in bars where alcohol is served. But there wasn't actually a sign prohibiting them at stadium then.
So his personal view versus the actual policy or lack thereof.
Right. And he described Kelly as like intense or a typical alpha male, but hadn't seen him get physically aggressive before this.
Okay, so maybe verbally intense, but not physically violent in Palumbo's experience.
Seems like.
That background, the mix of formal but expired training, restaurant experience, and roadhouse wisdom. It paints an interesting picture. His view on guns adds another layer, too.
Yeah. And he was diligent afterwards. He created a written incident report.
Good.
And provided the security footage. So they had 16 cameras.
16? That's pretty comprehensive coverage.
Yeah, although he did say there were some obstructions at the bottom of the video feed. But he was the tech guy, apparently. The owner wasn't savvy, so Palumbo handled the footage for police and lawyers.
Okay, so he was crucial in preserving that evidence.
Definitely. And then there's this other piece, potentially really significant.
Oh.
Palumbo recalled hearing about something that happened the Friday before the shooting.
Okay.
Allegedly, Daniel Gergers, the shooter, had been in the bar showing off pictures of weapons on his phone.
Showing off weapons in the bar.
Yeah, and supposedly said something like he felt bullied and would come prepared next time.
Whoa. Okay, that's alarming. Where did Palumbo hear this?
From Denny, another bartender. Denny wasn't working the night of the shooting, but he apparently encountered Gerger 3 days before.
So, secondhand information relayed after the fact.
Seems so, but Palumbo stated very clearly in the deposition that if he had heard someone say that, he would have confronted them, maybe banned them, possibly even called the authorities.
Right. That prior alleged threat. It really hangs there, doesn't it? If that info had gotten to Palumbo directly and sooner.
Exactly. Hindsight's 20/20, but it makes you wonder about communication flow among the staff.
Yeah. How do you handle those kinds of, yellow flags? Especially in a casual bar environment.
It's tough. Just a couple more details about the bar itself.
Okay.
Pitchers. They had them for water and beer, easily accessible.
Oh.
Water pitchers, usually near the bathrooms.
Standard setup.
But Palumbo thought it was weird that Kelly apparently went into the men's room to fill the water pitcher.
Why weird?
Because the soda gun at the bar would have been way faster. More normal.
Ah, okay. Less conventional path.
Yeah. He even described the men's room, 2 toilets, one with an old trough urinal he thought was gross.
Oh.
He said you could fill a pitcher in there, maybe awkwardly in the sink or even the trough, but it wasn't ideal.
So Kelly choosing the restroom fill-up seemed odd to him. A small detail, but maybe indicates something unusual in Kelly's actions even before the pouring incident.
Maybe. And one last thing. House account. Palumbo clarified that just meant tabs he wrote off because of the chaos that night.
Gotcha. Just clearing up the books after everything went down.
Right. He didn't remember Kelly buying a round that would have gone on a house account.
Okay.
But he did remember Gerger ordering mixed drinks. Not Miller Lite, specifically mixed drinks.
Again, small details, but they add to the texture of his memory of the night. It all helps build the picture.
Yeah, exactly. It's like assembling a puzzle from these fragments.
Mm-hmm.
So wrapping this up, Tony Palumbo's deposition gives us this really granular, firsthand view of how things unfolded.
Yeah, from the initial trigger, that fast walk with the pitcher, through his own quick intervention.
Based purely on instinct, before he knew about the gun.
Right, and then into that chaotic aftermath with others jumping in, it really highlights how fast things can escalate.
Totally.
And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Considering Palumbo's security mindset and that later info about Gerger's alleged threat.
Yeah.
Well, you have to wonder what difference it might have made if that threat had been communicated more directly, sooner. Could proactive steps have changed anything?
It's impossible to know, but it's a heavy question.
It is. And maybe more broadly, what does this whole incident tell us about the pressures and, frankly, the dangers faced by people managing places like bars, where alcohol's flowing, tensions can rise?
And safety relies on this mix of rules, experience, instinct.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes just hoping things don't go completely off the rails.
Or having the roadhouse rules handy, I guess. It's a lot to put on a bar manager.